Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Season 11 of Doctor Who was a progressive's wet dream. It lacked the excitement, the heart, the soul, and the passion of the previous seasons of the Doctor Who revival. And this is how progressives want to see television going forward. Let's look at a really well written episode like Demons of the Punjab. On its own, this is a fabulous piece of television written by Vinny Patel. It's well produced, directed and shot. It's one of the best, most beautiful Doctor Who episodes ever shot. Unfortunately, the only role the Doctor has in this episode is to be Yaz, aka Mandip Gill's Uber time-travelling driver. If you can't have a friend who owns a time travel machine to take you back to the past, what's the point? That's what Yaz says at the beginning of the episode. I want to compare this episode to Father's Day because the concept is very, very similar. Companion wants to go and see a relative in the past when they're younger. Rose in Father's Day wants to go and see her dad on the day of his death. Father's Day is a brilliant episode. The difference between Father's Day and Demons of the Punjab, the motivation of Vinny writing that episode is to do a historical educational episode about the partition of India. And it was very educational to me personally because I'd never even heard of that moment in history. I know I wasn't one for school and I would fall half asleep when it was time for history. I'm just telling you the truth here. So very educational, brilliant episode of Doctor Who. This is one of the reasons that Doctor Who was created back in 1963, to actually do this so kids could actually learn something. So I had no issue with this, but the problem is it feels like the Doctor, Graham and Ryan are all spectators. The problem is this should be an emotionally driven episode for Yaz. She's meeting her grandmother as a beautiful, elegant, strong, independent young woman. But the problem with this episode is in terms of Father's Day, and I know the motivations behind both episodes are different, but they're kind of doing the same thing in a way. So Rose is going to see her father on the day he's going to die. Now, of course, Rose, in the back of her mind, wants to save her father's life. She barely can remember him. She was only a baby when he died. It's a very emotional moment for Rose. She hero worships the man, but then she gets to meet the real deal because he kind of gets flirty with her, which is awkward, and she tells him off. Pete probably maybe has thought about cheating on Jackie before, maybe has cheated on Jackie. We don't know. And of course, progressive entertainment always does the bad dad, man bad scenario. There's no such thing as bad women who cheat in a progressive's mind. There's no such thing as a bad mother in a progressive's mind. I'm guessing every progressive had a good experience with mothers and not with fathers. But that's the propaganda they're selling. I can live with it in terms of Father's Day because he doesn't go really strongly in that. Basically, Pete is trying to provide for his family, but he does it very, very badly. He's a flawed human being, as are we all. Would we be better fathers for those of us who are not fathers? So let's not judge others who are actually fathers, right? Anyway, I'm going off topic here. So the point is, this show uplifts Pete, Rose, and Jackie Tyler as a family, as supporting characters for this brand new Doctor Who revival. By the end of the episode, you grow more and more in love with Rose, Jackie, and Pete. And Pete's sacrifice is absolutely beautiful. It's simple, it's easy, and the Doctor is involved. Even though this is Rose's story, this is about Rose, and this is Rose's world in a way, the Doctor is involved, and the Doctor and Rose clash heavily for what Rose does by saving her father's life. Basically, she has created something absolutely terrible that could end not just the planet Earth, but the universe. And so it's very interesting when you got that opportunity at the beginning of the episode for the Doctor when Yaz makes this request. No, I did this for my friend Rose, and the universe nearly ended. It was a great opportunity to do that and say that's why I can never do that again. But ultimately, the Yaz can still persuade her to do it, but she's kind of, look, the Doctor's supposed to be an intelligent, Time Lord. And, in reality, the Father's Day thing, if the Doctor was a real character, wouldn't have happened. The Doctor knows it's fucking dangerous, and the Doctor was dumb for taking Rose to the day of her dad's death. And the Doctor was even more dumber for taking Yaz back to India. It was a dumb idea. So, but the actual episode's great. But what happens is, it doesn't uplift Yaz as a character. Basically, you could have done an episode of Doctor Who about the partition of India, and basically, you didn't have to use Yaz's grandmother. Now, it could have been very emotional for Yaz because of her roots, and, obviously she would have been part of that journey, but you didn't need to use her grandmother, because ultimately, her grandmother is still alive. It doesn't really uplift anything. I don't even think you see the grandmother again. That's kind of funny. So this isn't about uplifting, Yaz's family as characters. It's just about doing a historical episode. And as I say, this is the premise that Doctor Who was originally created for and launched in 1963 for. And I'm okay with it. But the Doctor is literally a passenger in this episode. It's a bit like Rosa. Again, it's a really good educational episode about Rosa Parks. Again, for me too, because really I knew Jack about that historical event as well. And it's very important. You put yourself in Rosa's place, living in that situation where, a horrible situation where, blacks have to get out of their seats if there's not enough seats for whites. Imagine that reality and being a black person. Horrible, horrible. And it puts you in that position. It's well done, but in terms of it being an episode of good Doctor Who, I wouldn't go that far. It's a good episode. It's a good piece of educational television. And this is the direction Chibnall was going for with season 11. The problem was it lacked interest and entertainment, heart, and soul. And that's what the revival was built on. So when you hear Russell T Davies answer the question, why are you back, Russell? He said, I felt I was needed. So what does this mean? Because everything that someone in show business says is hidden in an enigma. So what he's saying is, my good friend Chris Chibnall fucked the show up and put it on its knees. So I've been forced to save the legacy that I started. I started Doctor Who. RTD started No, RTD didn't start Doctor Who. Let me rephrase that. He brought the show back. He created the legacy of Doctor Who. And he created a successful formula for the modern day revival of Doctor Who. And it worked. He left, and slowly but surely it degenerated, because he should have at least had a godfather role above the showrunners, which he never did. He just left and left them to it. Now they need a structure again. It's just no good him coming back for a few years and leaving again and having the same situation happen again. Of course, Doctor Who can't last forever, I suppose. It will take a break eventually. I would love Doctor Who to be on the telly box forever, because I love Doctor Who in any shape, way, or form. But, these are the problems. So season 11 is drab, it's dull, it does some good historical episodes, but it's not interesting. And then you look at, as I've said so many times, you've got that moment when Graham tells the Doctor that his cancer may be back. Now, we saw in the Ninth Doctor's first season that he can use the sonic to examine people. So if I'm the Doctor and Graham says, oh my God, Doc, you're my mate, I need to tell you something, I think my cancer may be back. You get your sonic out, you lay him down and you examine him, and if his cancer is back, all you say to the man is, I need to take you back home and you need to go and see your doctor, right? You know, you need to go and see your GP, right? You need to go and see your consultant. That would have been the responsible way of handling this. But that moment was only used to show that the doctor is awkward. All because initially Chris Chibnall, Mr. Progressive himself, decided because the doctor was now female, she should be flawless. She should have no flaws. This is a character in its purest form that's always been flawed from Hartnell to Capaldi. But because they cast a woman, then she had to have no flaws. That bit him on the arse, and he tried to change it in one scene, awkward, horrible scene that didn't work. Now let's talk about the casting of Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. Now they painstakingly told you again and yet again how she earned the right to play the Doctor via going through the audition process. Now let me tell you what actually happened. He decided from day number one that Jodie Whittaker was going to be his 13th Doctor. But he, the BBC and Jodie discussed it. Everyone knew that she'd been on Broadchurch and they're good pals. Everyone would make a few assumptions that they didn't want them to make. So basically they said, you know what we've got to do, Jodie? You've got to go through the audition process, or at least say you went through the audition process. So it looks like you earned this role, right? This is how this industry works. This is why they told you again and again and again she went through the audition process. But she was always going to play the 13th Doctor. Was she the right pick for the 13th Doctor? Well, it doesn't really matter if she was the wrong pick or the right pick, because the material she got was substandard in the sense of not without giving her doctor any characterizations. I said this at the time. At the time, everyone was furiously debating whether we should have a female doctor or not. I didn't give a shit about that shit. I didn't care if, you know, the doctor's got a dangly bit or a vagina. It doesn't matter to me. You know, I never used to beg for it, but I didn't care if the doctor was female or a woman of colour or a person of colour or whatever. Russell T Davies casts Ncuti Gatwa. No fuss, no controversy. No one's making YouTube videos saying, oh my God, Ncuti Gatwa, a black man's the Doctor. It's outrageous. No one's doing that, are they? Why? Because everyone knows that Ncuti is one of the best actors on the circuit, and he absolutely deserves his role, and he's going to eat. He's going to be eating and eating it alive. It's going to be amazing. And also Russell has cast Millie Gibson, who's done her apprenticeship brilliantly over at Coronation Street. And we know, again, she's yet another one of the best brilliant artists on the circuit right now. Two brilliant, solid pieces of casting. And they work. No fuss, no frills, no spills, no controversy. They're there. They're going to work. Everyone's excited. Everyone's taking pictures of the on-location shoots for season 14. Some people even think David Tennant's been seen for the season 14 shoot. Maybe that proves my theory of him being Ncuti's master as actually being true. We'll have to wait and see. But of course, maybe the Human Metacrisis Doctor is returning for season 14. Who knows? Very, very exciting. So the Chibnall era started off in a bland, boring, uninteresting way, and it was never able to recapture the imagination of the audience. But, you know, a lot of people think it was controversial that he cast a female Doctor. I don't. And it was bland, and it was boring, and the huge audience he had during the broadcast of The Woman Who Fell to Earth dropped from, you know, the second episode. And it dropped, and it dropped, and it dropped. But he hadn't killed Doctor Who yet, even with the blandness and it being boring and all of that. How he killed Doctor Who was the episode The Timeless Children. Once he did that, and they saw the reaction to it, he was gone. He was a dead man walking, because I believe Chris Chibnall, prior to that, was going to be in charge for a few more years and he was going to cast his own doctor. Yes, Jodie was going to stick to the 3-year rule. I like that rule. She would have always left after 3 seasons. But he wasn't going anywhere until they saw the reaction to the Timeless Children. His position was untenable, boys and girls. He couldn't remain. He had killed it. Because we're not talking about hell-bent here. You know, where someone makes a narrative decision that some people don't like. We're talking about the most important thing about the reason we watch this show. The Doctor. I watched this show for the Doctor and the TARDIS. I've told you that in another video before. Now, it didn't trigger me as much as it did others, but most of the fandom were absolutely upset that Chibnall was trying to say here that William Hartnell wasn't actually the first version of this character. Basically, the Doctor now comes from another universe and another planet in another universe. He never established anything of this. He just gave us the biggest hot take in television and film and entertainment history and didn't explain what he was doing. Just like he never explained his fugitive Doctor. He just thought, hey, let's just chuck a female woman of colour as the Doctor and let's create a little mystery around her and never explain it. Because to him, it's all about ticking that box. Now, Joe Martin is an excellent Doctor. Again, he shot himself in the foot again because most people were saying Joe's Doctor seemed more like the Doctor than Jodie did. And people wanted to see more of her. People were even hoping she would be Chibnall's second Doctor. I was certainly hoping that. But that's never going to happen now because he's gone. He ruined it. He ruined it because, like all progressives, he's at war with people with opposing political opinions, and he was at war with his own customers, the Doctor Who fans, and it ended in tears. It's the Timeless Children that got Chris Chibnall removed as Doctor Who showrunner, and this, my friends, is the core problem with the Chibnall era when you allow lunatics loose on something like Doctor Who. He's a Doctor Who fan. He knew exactly what would happen when he wrote The Timeless Children, and he did it on purpose for his own reasons. Now, there's elements of The Timeless Children I like. I think it's an interesting idea to expand on the background of the Doctor. But what he did here was he didn't explain himself because he's still got Doctor Who flux after this. He's still got a few specials, and he touches on it in really small ways, but he doesn't want to explain himself to you. And that's the problem. You know, it's just like, oh, well, you're still the Doctor. Let's move on. And that, once you kick the door open and you change everything, one of the things we always say is we don't want to know the Doctor's origin story, and he should never have touched it. And now he's left a mess, and this is why Russell's back. Russell is back to sort all of this shit out. Can he? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But if anyone's capable of doing this, it is Russell T Davies. We do live in different times now. This is not 2005. This is going to be a more challenging time for Doctor Who because you only have to go on Doctor Who Twitter to see some of the nonsense people are discussing. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.